So what comics did I pick up this week? Stay tuned to find out. All right, you guys, well, thank you for sticking around. It is February 3rd, a Wednesday. You know what that means, new comic book day. Before we get into my picks, if you're new to the channel, I'm going to ask that you please go ahead and click that subscribe button down below. If you're not new to the channel and you haven't subscribed, what the hell are you doing? Also, click that notification bell, smash that like button, it really helps out the show. If you want to get a closer look at some of the things that I like to collect, whether it be statues, comic books, trading cards, things like that, it's all up on my Instagram page. You can find me on Instagram at MarkNerdyAF. I'd really appreciate a follow. Let's cut to it. First book up for this week, I have Rick and Morty, Worlds Apart, #1. This is by Oni Press, and it is obviously a new Rick and Morty spin-off series. They have been doing quite a few of these. They did announce, I think, back in July of last year that they were done with their main Rick and Morty title. So they're doing a lot of different spin-offs and one-shots, and this is one of them, Worlds Apart. I think they had one about 2 weeks ago. I mean, I love Rick and Morty. I love the TV series. I have thoroughly enjoyed the comic books, so I'm always going to be picking up at least issue #1 for any new spin-off that they decide to do. My understanding is this one takes place mainly within season 4 and those characters. So if you're familiar with the show, if you like the show, I'd recommend picking this up. The next book up for our indie titles is from Aftershock. It is Maniac of New York, #1. I heard about this coming out and it instantly grabbed my attention. It had, from reading the preview, it had a cool kind of premise, which really didn't make too much sense. It sounds like there is this like slasher, murderer, horror type character that is going around New York and just murdering a bunch of people. And the authorities are not doing anything about it or just have stopped doing anything about it. So there's 2 civilians, I guess, that kind of take matters into their own hands, obviously trying to stop this mad murderer. Art looks pretty cool. This is written by Elliot Kalan. Art is done by Andrea Muti. And I wasn't aware, but Elliot Kalan is actually an Emmy Award-winning writer, has written on shows like The Daily Show. So that's another aspect to this book that, I mean, had me looking forward to it a little bit more. Want to see how this one pans out. Obviously, I'm going to grab the first issue. You might want to do the same. And there have been a lot of good covers this week. Continuing with our independent titles, I have Luna #1. This is by Boom Studios. It is written and illustrated by Maria Lovett. I'm pretty sure I'm saying her name right. But let's talk about the cover here. This is cover B, and this is a Jenny Frison cover. And I think it's actually kind of obvious because she does have a really cool, unique style of art where she usually takes just one singular character, puts them smack dab on the page, and just the expression she captures and the overall just design of how she draws all these various characters. I mean, she's been doing a lot with DC Future State, specifically Wonder Woman. She does a great job. This isn't my cover of the week. There's another one I had to give it to. But man, this is a cover you will need to pick up. And back to the story a little bit. Maria Lovett is, to me, most known for recently her work on Heartbeat, which was another Boom Studios title. This sounds like it's going to be based in the 60s. Some hippie shit going on. I read that there's this cult. Big surprise, it's the 60s. There's magic and immortality and things like that, which I am definitely down for. So can't wait to start reading this one. And based on Maria Lovett's work, I think this has potential to be a great series coming from Boom Studios. Next up, and the final title for indies, is Deep Beyond #1. This is by Image Comics. There looks to be a bunch of people on this title, so I won't get into it. But from what I've read and what I understand, this is focused on another post-apocalyptic setting. I'm not sure why that is, but it looks like the answer is actually in the abyss, deep down into the ocean. And that's honestly not anything new. I mean, we just had that movie Underwater with Kristen Stewart. Lowe has done this already. It's a cool concept, don't get me wrong, but I kind of was interested to see how this one differed from, other instances where we had that sort of same thing where civilization was trying to survive by going into the ocean. So we'll see. All right, well, let's get into Marvel. This one is going to be talked about a lot this week. This is the second printing of The Amazing Spider-Man 55. This is a Patrick Gleason cover. And if you're following anything that's been happening in the comic book community within the last month or so, you should be able to recognize this cover here. It is different. The previous one, or the first printing, was white instead of red here on the illustration of Spider-Man. It is a really cool cover. I actually picked up cover B, which is not as popular as this cover A when it came out for first printing. So I wanted to get my hands on at least one of these. The story was fine. This is one of those instances where everyone was just freaking out because of the cover, which is, it's kind of rare actually when you think about it. Usually there has to be something happening in the comic book. There has to be a key event, a first appearance, something like that. Not in this case. It seemed like everyone was just freaking out over this because solely of the cover. If you watch any of my videos, you know that a lot of the times I do pick up comic books primarily because they have awesome covers. And this, I'm going to give it to it. This is a great cover by Gleason. You might want to try to get your hands on this. I don't think it's going to be that hard to get. I think LCSs were well aware that this was going to be a hot book to get a second printing in, and it should be up there on your shelf, so you might want to just have one of these in your collection, even if you're not reading the story. All right, continuing with Marvel, we have Gwenom vs. Carnage #2. The first issue of this was pretty solid. This is a 1 in 10, and this was kind of a mix of, I do enjoy the story, but I also love what was done with this cover, even though it's Marvel, and they just piss me off because you have plenty of other publishers that know when there's a 1 in 10 or 1 in 25, especially the ones that people are really going after. They still print them on this shitty ass paper. When you have DC using cardstock, you have like Boom and Aftershock and smaller publishers taking their time to actually put a nice cover on it and make sure if you are interested in maybe getting it graded, you can go ahead and do that and be confident that you will, with a modern book, get a grade back as like a 9.8. And even if grading is not your thing, let's think about the LCSs for a minute. You had Star Wars High Republic #2 come out this week, and there was a 1 in 25 that right now is hitting, I think, around 100, 120 bucks. And Marvel continues to print those covers on this shitty ass paper that you find within the book. No gloss to them, no extra thickness, nothing. This is a topic I'm a little bit sensitive of because if you're an LCS and you get that book back and there's a bunch of dings in it, nobody's going to want to shell out that kind of money. And you see all these other LCSs that somehow ended up getting a decent copy, even though Marvel doesn't take the time to bag and board these either. They're going to be getting money that you're shit out of luck on. It's a shitty situation. I know Marvel is this huge publisher. They might not have the time to do that, but they should be more considerate, man. It's pretty unacceptable. This day and age, a lot of people love comic books because of the cover. We have amazing cover artists doing these books now, and we're shelling out $5-6 for comics. And you expect us to want to shell out that kind of money when we end up looking at these and seeing that, okay, it's losing color here because you're not using a cover with better material and gloss on it. I mean, you get a bunch of dings because the paper is so thin. I digress. I do really like this cover. I think the yellow on this is pretty badass. You have the blood splattering, good abstract all around. And I don't know. It's a good read too. All right, and for one of my favorite Marvel series thus far is Venom. This is number 33. This is the cover B, the Stegman variant. Cover A was okay. I just preferred this cover a little bit more. Donny Cates has been writing Venom, as you may very well know. Not much more to say to that. There's a lot of tie-ins to other things going on within the Marvel Universe. I believe an omnibus has released for this, or at least a bunch of trades. You might want to consider catching up if you have not done so already. This is a great series. All right, so this is still Marvel as it should be. This is Marvel Action Origins #1, and we get a origin story for Thanos in here. You may have not heard of this series before, or Marvel Action in general. It is published by IDW, which to my understanding is a sister company, subsidiary of Marvel. I don't know what is going on with that because Star Wars, for example, is kind of confusing. They have one title that they publish with IDW, and then they have another one that's just Marvel. If somebody can explain that to me in the comments, I would appreciate that because I'm not fully up to date on what's going on with that. But anyways, yeah, Marvel, IDW, whatever it is. You may have not seen these titles before because they are kid-focused, but specifically this had an origin story for Thanos, so I'm kind of curious to see what they do with that. And the art, even though it's kid-friendly, the art is really cool in these books. I have a few of them, and I always have a good time reading them, so why not pick this up? All right, on to some Star Wars madness. We have the High Republic #2. #1 came out 2 weeks ago, I think, and people were losing their minds over that book as well. Something is in the water right now regarding Star Wars, and I am not sure exactly what it is. Everyone has just been going crazy over these new series that are coming out, and I'm fine with it. But so far, this has been really good, in my opinion. Even though I'm not the biggest Star Wars fan, there are characters in here that generally have caught my attention. And as I mentioned before when I was bitching about Marvel and how they print some of their incentive variants, this one, not this cover, this is cover A, but there is a 1 in 25 cover that I did not shell out the money for. That is going for like $100, $120 for. If you are a huge Star Wars fan and are thinking about doing something like that, I would maybe suggest waiting a few days and seeing if that book dies down a little bit, because paying $100 for a 1 in 25 is kind of ridiculous. I'm not saying that it won't hold value, but usually for those type of incentives, the benchmark is $1 per what the incentive is. So if it's a 1 in 25, usually they're priced at $25, 1 in 10, $10. It's up to you. It is a cool cover. You also might want to keep an eye, though, on the condition of it, because, like I said, Marvel sucks in that department. But guys, if you don't know me personally, you'll soon find out that sometimes I am a sucker, and I do pay a little bit more for covers that I like. This is a 1 in 10 for Star Wars The High Republic Adventures #1, a new series under the Star Wars franchise. This is from IDW. No idea why some of them are just Marvel Publishing, why some of them are IDW. But IDW actually, for whatever reason, even though they're under the Marvel arm, it seems like they use actually better quality cover paper for their books. At least for this incentive they did. And Yoda is my favorite Star Wars character. I felt like I just had to have this one. And it is pretty sweet in my opinion. Therefore, I'm giving it my cover of the week. I'm really excited to read this. The Star Wars High Republic series so far was excellent, and I'm hoping this one kind of follows up with the same. On to DC. Jenny Frison continues to kill it, especially in the DC Future State Wonder Woman department. This is DC Future State Wonder Woman #2. This is cover B by Jenny Frison, and it's very similar to the previous issue #1, where she did the cover as well. But man, these are just really badass. I have no problem paying an extra $1 to get this nice cardstock, DC quality paper that we have here. And this is one of my favorite DC Future State titles that have come out so far. So for that reason, easily I'm going to pick this one up. Continuing with DC, we have DC Future State Swamp Thing #2. This was another cover that really caught my attention. The contrast with Swamp Thing here, and I love when Swamp Thing just has those like little flowers and buds that sprout out of them. It's super cute. And then we have the snow in the background, and you'll see there's like the shadow in a skull formation and these creepy little bony hands. Just another clean cardstock cover coming from DC. And this is another one of the DC Future State titles that I prefer so far. And I'm getting to the point where even though some of these are only going for like 3 issues, there's still quite a heavy price on a lot of them. Some of them are like $6 or $7. And I'm kind of narrowing them down to, okay, what am I really enjoying reading right now? And it's Swamp Thing, it's Wonder Woman, it's Batman usually. So I'm cutting out those other titles that I may have grabbed the first issue of just to give you guys forewarning. That doesn't mean don't stop reading them. If you're enjoying it, that's your preference. Go ahead and keep picking them up. But because of the price and because there's just so much stuff coming from this DC Future State event, it's hard for me to keep up and to convince myself that I want to pay, $8, $7 for a book. I just can't. And this Swamp Thing series has been great so far. Smaller price tag on it. It's only $5, and you get it's actually $4, but $5 if you want this B cover with the nice cardstock on it. It just seemed worth it to me, and if you like the story, you should pick it up as well. And we are going to finish my picks for the week with DC's Future State, The Next Batman, #3. This is a 4-issue miniseries, and we have 3 things essentially happening in this arc right now. First one is Tim Fox is the new Batman, and the other 2, which I guess I'll call background stories, they're centered around the Arkham Knights and the Outsiders. Overall, even though this is one of Future State's heavier titles, I do like where it has been going, specifically with Tim Fox. Honestly, I don't really care about the Outsider stuff too much, or the Arkham Knights. And I want to see how they wrap it up with him as this new Batman, and we have this issue and one more left. I'm just going to finish it out. Alright guys, well I want to thank you for sticking it out with me as I went through my top picks for this week's New Comic Book Day. If you haven't done so already, as mentioned, please click that subscribe button down below, smash that like button, hit that notification bell so you can get updates whenever I post new videos. And I want to hear from all of you guys, so please comment down below with your picks as well. Did you pick up some of the same books? Are there things I'm missing? Let me know. That's all I got. Till next time, Jumps out.